We have spent the whole month of March touring over 20 apartments, which means that if you spread it out, we've basically seen at least one apartment a day, and that's a lot. And the reason for that is because our lease ends at the end of March, and so we were kind of desperate to find a new apartment. I will show you all the apartments. Just to keep myself organized, this is what we're gonna do. I'm gonna tell you a little bit about apartment hunting in Boston, and then I'm gonna tell you our budget and the things that we were looking for in an apartment, and then I'll show you all the apartments that we've seen. Okay, so here's a map of Boston, and the first thing that you need to know is that this river right here is called the Charles River, and that separates the city of Boston and the city of Cambridge. It doesn't really matter where you live, but from my experience, Boston tends to be a lot more expensive than Cambridge, but it is kind of also where everything's happening, so pros and cons, you know? We currently live in this area called Fenway, and Fenway is honestly great. There's lots of food, entertainment options, especially since Fenway Park is right there. My favorite thing about living in Fenway is that our apartment is right by the biggest Target located in Boston, and right across the road there's also a supermarket. The other thing that you need to know is that I work in this area, and to get there I take the company shuttle, but if I were to take public transport I could take the bus, which runs down this road, or I could take what's called the Green Line, which is basically like a tram line, change at Park Street Station onto the Red Line. So the Green Line and the Red Line are the two main lines that we use on a regular basis, so we kind of want to live somewhere where those two lines would be relatively accessible. Traffic goes in this direction, so if we could also live somewhere where we would be moving in the opposite direction, that would be a plus, because I get really claustrophobic on trains. Okay, let me tell you all the things that we were looking for in an apartment. We wanted 2 bedrooms. We wanted hardwood floors because carpet is like, you don't know what's living in the carpet. You don't know what previous owners did with the carpet. Plus, if you spilled something on the carpet, it would be so much harder to clean than if you spilled something on a hardwood floor. We wanted a washer dryer and unit because that's what we have now. We wanted a dishwasher and unit because that's what we have now. And we wanted lots of windows because our current apartment is kind of facing a courtyard surrounded by other buildings, and so there's a lot of shadows and it's like living in a cave, and seasonal depression in New England is real, so we want as much light as we can get. We did not want to live in a basement or first floor apartment because if somebody broke in, you're kind of like the first point of contact, plus living in a basement is slightly depressing. We also wanted to live in anything other than a house because I feel like if you lived in a house, you're kind of the only person that burglars could attack. Whereas if you lived in a building or a townhouse or a walk-up or whatever, like there are many other doors that they could choose from and it doesn't have to be you. Starting off strong in Cambridge, we went to a high-rise apartment that was actually in a really great location because it was right between work and where we live, and it was also on the road where the bus would pass, so great access to public transport. Other pros were that the rooms were huge and each room had its own thermostat. Cons of this place was that it was shared laundry between 2 buildings and the surroundings were slightly dodgy, at least to me. Like, there was some guy who was toothless who was trying to tell us which way to go, and then some other woman came in saying she had a client in the building and pretended she didn't have a key to the building when she actually did. I don't know, it was so weird. The second building that we toured was a low-rise apartment, and we actually saw 2 units in this apartment. The pros were, again, location was not bad. Both units had 2 bathrooms. There was a gym in the building, and one of the units had hardwood floors, although the other unit did have carpet, so that was a no-go for us. This was shared laundry, and for some reason the whole place smelled like weed. The leasing office was also the same leasing office as the one in the previous building, and if it wasn't the same, then they were at least friends, which gave me even more dodgy vibes.
realtor for this place was really funny too, because he said that we should go outside and that his driver was waiting for us in his car. And we got in the car and turns out it was his own personal car that was full of stuff. And the driver was his girlfriend, and she didn't know where she was and didn't know Boston at all. Was very lost. He was also super into the patio and kept being like, "Patio! You like patios, don't you?" And when we didn't really say anything, he'd be like, "Patio? There's a patio! Don't you like patios?"
We saw a building on Mass Ave, which is quite close to the river, but it was occupied by current tenants, so I didn't want to film inside their apartment. It was very nice. The only thing is that the second bedroom was really small. Like, I'm not even sure you could fit a bed in there. Moving on from Cambridge, we are going downtown, which is close to Chinatown. Honestly, this apartment was great. We saw a number of apartments in this building. They all had hardwood floors. They all had spacious rooms. And the amenities in the building were great. There was a gym, a pool, many co-working spaces. The only con to this apartment is that one of the bedrooms does not have any windows. From there, we went to Beacon Hill, which is this area that's kind of old, classic Boston, I would say. Lots of brick buildings, lots of walk-ups, lots of brownstones. But because it's old, it also means that these buildings are old, which means that they are really, really small. So I would say that the bedrooms were very cozy. They did have washer, dryer in unit and dishwasher though, which was a plus. We saw one basement apartment in Beacon Hill, but I was not a fan because, well, one, people were living in it, so I didn't film, and two, it was a basement apartment, so it was really dark and had like a separate entrance that was underground, and it was just not a vibe.
The floors in this apartment were also weird. They were diagonally tilted, and so if you stood, then you would be at an angle. Also, our mom would have hated the stairs outside because they were super janky. and they were kind of hard to climb, and they're small. Also, this realtor was super weird, and she didn't know how keys worked, and a whole bunch of other stuff that we don't need to talk about in this video.
We did see another apartment in Beacon Hill that we really loved. It was a 2-bedroom on the 5th floor, which means that it was the highest floor and there wasn't anything that was really blocking the view. It got great light. The windows were huge and so were the bedrooms. The only thing was that the kitchen was small and there was no washer, dryer, or laundry facilities in the unit or in the building, so you would have to walk out to a laundromat to do your laundry. The other concern was that this building had lead paint, and well, according to Google, all old buildings in Boston have lead paint, and it's actually safe to live in as long as it's well maintained, so the paint needs to be, well, basically not cracked, otherwise lead could escape. But I just personally did not want to take that risk because I already have a whole bunch of health issues going on, and I've been to the doctor way too many times this year, so I do not need to add anything else. Right next to Beacon Hill is this area called the West End, which has a number of high-rise buildings, and that's where we went next. The first building we went to in the West End had huge bedrooms, great closet space, a huge gym, like actually the biggest gym I've ever seen in a apartment building, in Boston at least. The only thing was that the washer and dryer were in the basement.
This place had a really cool gym. It was really, really big and had lots of stuff in it, and the decor was nice.
For the second building that we saw in this area, it had a number of complexes, so we saw one in the high-rise building and then one in the low-rise building. And the high-rise building was definitely your typical standard apartment. It has the same vibe as our current apartment. In the low-rise building, it felt a lot more like a house, especially because it was on the first floor. It felt like there was a lot more space. The kitchen was huge, the living room was huge, the master bedroom was huge, big closet space.
The low-rise building had this really giant closet that we thought was cool because it was going to be lots of storage space, but then we opened it and there was a giant boiler inside, and so you couldn't put anything in, and it was just a fake closet.
Okay, and then we made it to the last couple of apartments that we saw, which were all in the same building. This building used to manufacture pianos, and so they have kind of a gallery next door where they still display art and things. They also have a huge kind of crate elevator, so when you're moving in, that makes it a lot easier. These apartments were not, your typical 2-bedroom apartments. They were kind of loft style, so there was one bedroom on the ground floor, and then there was kind of a little ladder going up to the second floor, and that's your open second bedroom. The cons to this place were that the ladder going up to the loft was really steep. Like, yeah, I think I would fear for my life going up and down every single day. The pros were that the views from the loft were amazing. I didn't take a video, but you could see the whole city of Boston. It was very nice. There was also a lot of space, and it had hardwood floors, which is really nice. I will say that another con that everyone will maybe hate me for is the exposed brick. Everyone in Boston loves exposed brick walls, but I really hate it. Like it's the same thing as the carpet. You know, you don't know what's living in those walls. You don't know how to clean the walls. Like, there could be little itty bitty things in the walls that just come out at night and crawl on you. So, no thank you.
There was a dead cockroach on the windowsill.